My name is Dr. Ian Storch. I'm a board-certified gastroenterologist and osteopathic physician, and you are listening to DO or Do Not. If you are interested in joining our team or have suggestions or comments, please contact us at doordonotpodcast.com. Share our link with your friends and like us on Apple Podcasts, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We hope you enjoy this episode.
On today's episode of DO or Do Not, we interview Richard Thacker, DO, Master of the American College of Osteopathic Internist and President-elect of the American Osteopathic Association. He's going to be the president. Amazing interview, amazing advocate for osteopathic medicine, all around great person, all around great doctor, and you don't want to miss this episode. Richard Thacker, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It's a great opportunity to talk about osteopathic medicine and my journey.
Richard, we're excited to have you. Specifically, there are a lot of great things we're going to talk about today, but specifically because you are the president-elect of the American Osteopathic Association. Congratulations. That is spectacular.
Well, thank you very much, Ian. I appreciate that. It's been a long road for me and anyone in a position such as this. It's a great honor and an opportunity to give back to the profession that's given me so much.
Rich, let's start. We have some medical students, pre-medical students, residents. I mean, I don't know how anybody listening doesn't know what the AOA is, but for people, let's say they didn't know what the American Osteopathic Association was or what the AOA does. Can you just give us a little spiel on what the organization's focus and goals are?
The American Osteopathic Association is the premier professional association for all osteopathic physicians. Now, it is a professional association that requires membership. Dues are paid. Credentials are reviewed for acceptance into this, but we also do a lot of advocacy for everyone that has a DO degree, but also for the 38,000 some students that are in osteopathic medical schools. So we play a role in everything from the education of students to advocacy of osteopathic physicians and the patients that they care for throughout the entire nation.
Amazing. All right, perfect. So, Rich, let me ask you this. A lot of doctors, like I've heard these complaints, and I'll tell you my little story. So a lot of doctors complain like there are so many organizations that are asking you to join, right? So for me, I'm internal medicine, gastroenterology. So there's like 5 GI societies, 5 internal medicine societies, my medical school, and then all these organizations, they all want you to join it. It's very difficult. It's expensive. At one point, I started the podcast and I was advocating for osteopathic medicine, and somebody pointed out that I was not an AOA member, which was quite embarrassing, and I fixed that right away. So I am a card-carrying AOA member. But for people that have that question, for DOs, obviously, either in residency, and now there's this combined match, so there's no like DO residencies. Say for people in residency or people in practice, if they asked you like, look, I'm already a member of all these other organizations, why do I need to join the AOA? What would you tell them?
Well, first of all, Ian, thank you for your membership. And I'm glad that you see some value in that. And thank you for your service with this podcast, because this is one other expression of what osteopathic medicine is, another opportunity to talk to folks. And you're absolutely right. There's a lot of competition in the world today. There's a lot of noise. But every organization serves some purpose, but no organization encompasses all aspects of a osteopathic physician's life and career, as does the AOA. From the first day that you are an osteopathic medical student, you have the opportunity to join this organization at no cost, to be part of this new fraternity of physicians but the association that will give you access to information that you may not otherwise have, and that will advocate for you and your patients from the point of your first day of medical school throughout your whole career. No one understands DOs like another DO. And the American Osteopathic Association is involved in, as I mentioned, education and advocacy, including all legislative issues, both state and national. We have a foundation, the American Osteopathic Foundation, that's very important and supportive of physicians and students with scholarship money. We educate in the continuing medical education space. We participate in exchange of information through all of the colleges, through AACOM, American Association of Colleges of Osteopathic Medicine. We're in the communication space and sharing of information with COCA, our accrediting agency. So there's a lot of things that we're involved in on a day-to-day basis in whatever stage your career is. And as I said, no one understands the osteopathic training, the tenets and principles and practice of osteopathic medicine like the American Osteopathic Association. And so we would love for students to become involved so they understand our culture that much better. And frankly, they have something to give back to the association and other members. We want them to be able to share their unique insights and experiences going forth. So I'm very proud to be part of this organization. Whether I was a leader or not, I certainly joined as a freshman in medical school and remained very loyal to the profession. As I mentioned in our opening, it's given me so many opportunities and has been so supportive of me throughout my journey. And I'll say one more aspect about this. No one really appreciates, or I'll say most people don't truly appreciate a medical association, professional association, until they need one, right? And we say that, maybe we say that about our dentist. We don't want to go to the dentist until we need to go. Or we don't want insurance until we need it.
Yep.
Right. And then we're happy that we have it and that it's there. And in order to sustain that, you have to contribute to that. And that means joining this association. And I would love for everybody to join 10 associations. You know, I don't necessarily want to dilute a person's bank account or their time and energy and their expertise, because each one could utilize that. But the AOA is the largest tent that really has influence in all of the areas that's important to your practice.
I think that's great, Rich, and that's exactly why I found it important to join the AOA. Again, embarrassingly, it needed to be pointed out to me, but I did rectify the error. So my follow-up question for you is about becoming president of the AOA. So I was very privileged to get to know Teresa Hupka, who is a past president of the AOA, just an amazing person, an amazing woman, an amazing doctor, an amazing advocate for osteopathic medicine. I'm sure you agree with all of those things, but I never got to ask her, and again, obviously you haven't done this yet, but you know what you're getting into. You know, I never got to ask her. I would look on social media and she was at this school, at that school, she was running around like kissing babies. God knows what she was doing. Like, and I think she was still practicing
delivering babies is what she was doing.
Kissing and delivering babies. So my question for you is, just in a nutshell, what made you, like, there are a lot of things you could put your time into, obviously. What made you decide that you want to dedicate this time to becoming the president? And then tell us specifically, what is this role? I know it's great, like your face is going to be on the cake and at the anniversary party or whatever, but like what is being president of the AOA actually mean? And what does it mean to your career for that year? That's just my own curiosity.
Well, the president-elect and president positions, they're much more than ceremonial, although we have that is a small function, but it's getting the message out. a podcast such as yours or testimony in front of committees and subcommittees in Washington, but it's also talking to those first year medical students who are just exploring what all of the opportunities are for them going forward and what they signed up for, a career of lifelong learning and a career of service. And so we're all about service too. And so I took that to heart early on. I was a leader in my medical school class as class president, and then later president of the Student Osteopathic Medical Association. And those leadership skills that I developed and the participation with my peers and my classmates spurred me on to do more later, such as chief intern, chief resident in my program, my internal medicine program. And was very proud of that. That leadership experience really solidified what I was doing, and I felt very good, a sense of accomplishment that I was giving something back to a profession that gave me the opportunity to come into their medical school. I didn't have an imposter syndrome. I earned my way into school, but I was very thankful for that opportunity, and this was something in a way to give back. But where it really led into the AOA that was so important was certain mentors in my career. One of them was Steve Wynn, who's been our executive director for the Florida Osteopathic Medical Association for over 50 years. He just retired in the last few months, but very influential person for me. I lived in Tallahassee, practiced there, state capital, Florida. It was very easy for me to just get in the car and go down the street and provide testimony or feedback to a legislator, to be part of certain meetings, appointments from the governor's office and other offices, to be involved. And for a variety of reasons, that energized me to be involved, to try to make a difference, and to continue to give back. It made me a better physician for my patients, and I tried to ultimately make a difference for them, to try to have some influence to the folks that follow me. And I think that's very much what the osteopathic profession is we stand on the shoulders of folks that have come before us, and we keep building on that. And that's why our profession has enjoyed the tremendous growth and the acceptance throughout the country and the world, and oftentimes the preference for their physician care, particularly in the primary care space. So I'm just happy to be part of that. I've never given up on the ideals and the principles of osteopathic medicine. I live by those tenets. And now, as an educator as well, I finished nearly 25 years of private practice in internal medicine, but I'm now an associate dean at the Alabama College of Osteopathic Medicine here in Dothan, Alabama. I like to say it's in LA, it's lower Alabama, and not far from Tallahassee. And now I'm making a difference in the lives of medical students and future physicians for this country. And I'm very proud of that.
First of all, it's amazing. I love everything that you just said. What do you expect the coming year to look like? So you could maybe tell us a little bit about President-elect, but again, my curiosity is, what sacrifices are you making in your regular workday and your regular responsibilities in order to take this on? And how much of your time, is this a full-time job as the president, or is it, what is that year going to look like?
It certainly feels like a full-time job. I think it is. It's a lot of after-hours work, a lot of Zoom work, certainly emails and correspondence, weekend travel. And so we really maximize our time by trying to, and divide and conquer. So there's the leadership, the senior leadership within the AOA, including our CEO, Kathleen Creason. Between all of us, we divide and conquer to make visitations to campuses, to state organizations and other affiliates. And so we want to spread the message of the importance of unity and the importance of board certification through the AOA, to put our 2 cents in terms of educational issues and legislative issues. So I'm very fortunate in that my day job, so to speak, at ACOM is they're very supportive. I have a great supportive dean, James Jones, DO, and board that support my efforts and my commitment to the AOA, and I'm very fortunate for that.
Amazing, Rich. All amazing. So we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about you. So if you could just start by telling us where you grew up, when you thought you might be interested in medicine, where you went to college, and what your journey was like into medical school.
Well, thank you for that opportunity. Even though I was not born and raised in Appalachia and Eastern Kentucky, both my parents were from a very small area in Pike County. But as it turns out, there's now an osteopathic medical school in Pikeville, Kentucky, and that was about 15 miles from where my parents grew up and met. But back in the 50s and 60s, folks were leaving the impoverished areas and going to the big cities like Chicago, Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Detroit, which is ultimately where I was born, Detroit, Michigan. I lived there till I was a teenager. And then my family relocated to a very small town called Green Cove Springs in North Florida, south of Jacksonville. From there, I went to junior college at first because I worked full time during the day as a orderly in the radiology department in downtown Jacksonville, but then later transferred to the University of Florida, where I got a BS degree in psychology. So you can see I'm kind of a non-traditional student already, the junior college thing, the night school thing, psychology major. And to be honest with you, I love the Gator Nation, but the University of Florida, I was not their kind of student, right? But CCOM, it was called CCOM back then, Southeastern College Osteopathic Medicine, interviewed me and accepted me right away. And that was it. I was done. I was like, fantastic. There's someone that wants me and appreciates me. And that further instilled part of my commitment to the profession.
When did you decide you wanted to be a doctor? Like, when did that take place?
Sure.
And then when did you find out about osteopathic medicine?
I had a public profession of faith. I can tell you exactly the moment that I wanted to be a doctor, even though I didn't understand what osteopathic medicine was. But I won a Tri-County science fair when I was a senior in high school, and came with a little scholarship money and awards, and you had to make a tiny little speech, and the superintendent put a microphone in front of me and said, "What are you going to do once you graduate high school, and what do you want to be?" And I never really thought much about it, to be honest with you. And so I wanted to say something really important, and the first thing that comes to mind is I want to be a doctor. But I said it in front of about 1,000 people at this mall in Jacksonville. And I'm like, oh boy, there it is. That's my public profession of faith. I've said it. Now I have to do it, right? And I followed that path, even though it was a bit circuitous. I did not really know anything about osteopathic medicine. And as it turns out, looking back, I was seeing an osteopathic physician who was practicing in a small town. I didn't know the difference. My parents didn't know or care. They just knew that they liked this physician who was able to treat the whole family and took an interest in us. And as it turns out, growing up in Michigan, growing up in Florida, these are big osteopathic friendly states, right? There's a lot of DOs in this area. And I'm sure even to this day, there's a lot of folks going to the doctors that, whether they recognize the DO or MD credentials, in the end, aren't worried about that. That's not why they picked the doctor. They picked that doctor because they had a great reputation and they were treated well.
All right, Rich. So after medical school, or while you were in medical school, can you tell us how you decided you wanted to be an internal medicine doctor and what your application to residency looked like?
So Initially, I always felt that primary care would be what I would do. Certainly, I was very comfortable in a small community. Those were some of my formative years, though I grew up in Detroit proper too, so wasn't concerned about the big city either. But primary care was very attractive to me, though I figured out, even though I love kids, I don't know that I wanted to be a pediatrician. And so I did find that I bonded very well with the older patients, geriatric patients. I loved the idea of some continuity of care, was not intimidated by the complexity and number of medications that some of these types of internal medicine patients had. I really thrived in the hospital setting. So internal medicine seemed a very natural fit for me. I applied back in the day, I only applied to 2 programs. Now it's the standard that students are applying to 40 or more programs. Of course, electronics, digital age has made all the difference here. I applied to 2 programs in Pennsylvania and got into both of them, but I selected the one just outside of Philadelphia, Delaware Valley Medical Center, which was in Bucks County, because they were pioneering a program where we did not have to do a traditional rotating internship year. I could do what was called the track medicine. And so I did a standard 3 year residency, but I was on call every third night for that first year. And that was brutal. And I saw some of my peers who were doing a traditional rotating ship year, and they were going home at 5 and that sort of thing. And my day was just beginning at 5. I reported to the intensive care unit and stayed there all night and working with those folks. But in the end, I was extremely well trained, very appreciative of that, was ready to take care of any sort of patient that came my way. And it worked out well for me. From there, by the way, I came back to North Florida as a National Health Service Corps scholar. I got loan repayment and worked at a federally qualified health center outside of Tallahassee, Florida. A great experience for me and just positive in so many respects.
All right, Rich. So then tell us a little bit about how you started in practice and how your career went from there.
I had a 3 year obligation with the National Health Service Corps. Would have stayed longer, was very challenged and appreciated in the community of Madison, Florida. Loved my patients. They loved me, if I can say. And we did so well that they ended up selling the FQHC to Columbia Healthcare, which is now known as HCA. And at that point, I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm traveling an hour one way to serve this community, but it's now in private practice. Maybe what I should do is just go into private practice with a group in Tallahassee, kind of get off the road." And plus, I started to miss the hospital care, and so I joined a group. We were a multidisciplinary group, about 10 physicians. I was the only osteopathic physician in the group. And it was a very traditional practice that you don't see too much anymore. All of us did the office. We took care of our folks in the hospital. Most of us followed folks in the nursing home. And then I also went to, did hospice care. When we had a hospice house, I subsequently got a certificate of added qualifications in hospice and palliative care because I was doing a fair amount of that as well. So great opportunities. I became involved with our hospital there, going through the ranks and chairing a number of committees, ultimately becoming chief of staff, and then later on, chairman of the board of the hospital. My osteopathic credentials have never held me back. Matter of fact, I believe they've opened doors for me that perhaps would never have had otherwise. So very proud of that and my AOA certification.
So all of that sounds amazing, and it sounds like you could just end the story there, and we would all be very impressed, right? I noticed at the end of your name tag, you're a master of the American College of Osteopathic Internists. I just want to segue a little bit. obviously we talked about the AOA and how important that is to you. Tell us a little bit about that master designation, which obviously I know is very impressive. But can you tell us a little bit about that?
Thank you so much. So by virtue of being an internist from Graduate Internal Medicine Board certified in that, I was sponsored by Anthony Ottaviani, DO, to become a fellow first in the College of Osteopathic Internists. And after several years in that, was recognized for my contributions to the profession, both in leadership, advocacy, and teaching, to be recommended for the next level of recognition within our organization, which is a master fellow. And once again, Dr. Taviani was very gracious in sponsoring me for that. So remain very active in the profession, not been necessarily a leader in the ACOI, but a leader in my state and in national office, as well as being an associate dean and training a number of students over the years. Really puts you into an important category that we would like to recognize any physician that is giving back to the profession in this way.
Very cool. Again, just wanted to make sure that I pointed it out for those that don't know what the master is. That's quite an honor. Now, the whole story is impressive. If you just kept doing what you were doing, that would have been pretty impressive. But somehow you decided to shift gears and go into academics. So can you tell us a little bit about when in your career, like how many years were you practicing and doing all these things? How did you decide? Did your wife make you do it? Was there something else to it? Or was it just, how did that come about? And how did you end up changing kind of hats?
Ian, you're so funny.
Right.
My wife can't make me do anything. In fact, she was against me going into academia initially. She was concerned that it wouldn't be busy enough for me, to be honest with you. Almost 25 years as an internist in my own practice, in private practice with this group, of course, but a very successful practice, a full patient panel, and really more than what I think many physicians would want to be doing with the call and working the weekends and, every third weekend, rounding on a number of patients in the hospital, covering for a number of other doctors in the community. So she's like, oh, you're going to be bored. And, what's this about? However, I was certainly not burned out in my practice, but I knew that at some point I would want to go into academia. I always knew that because I love to teach. I recognize that as a chief intern and chief resident. That's a big part of what you do, is to organize students and to make sure that they're learning, and you're always bringing up someone that's coming after you. So I really like that. I had taught third and fourth year students, nursing students as well, nurse practitioners and PA students. But with a new osteopathic medical school just 90 miles away, I was friends with Craig Lenz, DO, who was the founding dean of the college. And I was able to talk with him. And I said, listen, I want to be part of this some way. So I started out training third and fourth year students from the college. And I said, if you guys do another campus, a branch campus, or expand your class size, please check with me. And maybe I'll be at a point in my life and career that I could make that transition. And that's exactly what they did. And Dr. Lenz called me up and said, we're going to do it. We're going to expand class size, graduated our fourth class, and we're now ready. We're fully accredited. And I said, well, I'm going to do it. And like I said, my wife had more trepidation than I did initially. Here's the downside of academia, if there is one. It generally doesn't pay as well. I mean, let's be honest, right? But my lifestyle is so much better as I've gotten older. I'm 63 years old. How healthy is it to have your sleep disrupted through the night and have to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and run to the emergency room and then work a full day the next day? That's tough. Young people can do it, and I would say you should do it. But at some point, enough's enough of that, right? But it's just the pace is different. And fortunately, I've gained enough clinical experience, life experience, administrative wisdom to be able to pass that on. And I love the aspect of mentorship, which I hope that all of us would be able to mentor someone else coming up. So it really checks a lot of boxes, academia, for me. So I do much more than just administrate. I actually teach classes, and whether it's in a small group or a one-on-one situation or a large lecture hall, I love all aspects of it. It's been a very good fit for me.
Rich, my best friend is an interventional cardiologist and DO, and we both work kind of crazy. I'm like one click down from you, I think. And
Yeah,
he
yeah.
always says all we have is money and time. So you got to appreciate both. And I think
Yes, yes.
I appreciate everything you're saying.
Yeah, people have to trade. You can have money and not the time, right? And I had that. Yeah, oh, I'm not broke, but I like to say, hey, it's still doctor money. It's not bad. But yeah, there was the successful practice, but no time, right? Now I've got a little bit more time and still got the doctor money. So
Right.
it's okay. We're making that work. And I love it here. And the collegiality is fantastic.
Rich, first of all, I just want to say that a lot of the students that have worked with me on the podcast over the past, we're going on 6 years, have been from Alabama. And the students that have worked with me on the podcast, including two producers that have helped me run the podcast, have been absolutely spectacular. So, just a quick pitch for Alabama while I have you. If a student is listening and applying to osteopathic school, and wanted to know some reasons why they should consider applying to Alabama. Can you give us some?
Alabama is a very friendly state and appreciative of healthcare professionals, and not just physicians, but the, they realize that the average citizen here, from my experience, really appreciates that someone has a calling to work in healthcare, and particularly to be physicians. There's so many opportunities here. We're developing between the two osteopathic medical schools here in the state, ACOM and VCOM Auburn. We're developing graduate medical education. So not only can you go to medical school here, but you have so many opportunities to further your training and residency. There's an emphasis on primary care, of course. There will be jobs for you when you finish, and your patients will love you, and they need you, will appreciate you. The cost of living is much less here than in many states, and we're doing great things here at our campus at ACOM, including research, but also our clinical simulation is second to none. And the clinical network that's in place for students is fantastic. We've got a lot of infrastructure in place here that affords students the opportunities. We're very competitive, and our students are well trained such that they have no problems getting the residencies and the further training that they need.
Rich, I had the pleasure of meeting you at OMED in person, obviously. If I was talking to a student, I would say if I had the opportunity to come learn and train with you, that seems like a pretty good bonus. So
Well,
thank you for that
you're
too.
very kind for that. I do think that one of our advantages is that we're pretty accessible. My cell number is on my tagline of every email and correspondence that I have, and email, of course. But the phone number, if people can text me and reach out to me, and I think that's what the average person wants more of. They want access to folks that not only can help them, but are willing to help them.
Amazing, Rich. Thank you for that. And our grand finale question that we ask all of our guests is, can you give us one piece of advice that you were given from someone else that you have felt has really impacted your life and you would like to pass on to our listeners?
Say yes, Say yes when an opportunity is presented to you to be a leader and to make a difference, whether it's a committee on bylaws and governance. Say yes to participating to that, because that opportunity will lead to another opportunity, which will in turn lead to another opportunity and make you a better rounded person and a better rounded physicians to maximize the care of your patients. So just say yes. It's not hard.
Amazing advice, Rich. Again, thank you very much for spending time with us today. We're very appreciative.
Well, thank you. And I said yes to you as quick as I could, Ian. So thank you for this opportunity. It was a pleasure, and really appreciate what you're doing for the profession with your podcast.
This concludes our episode of Do or Do Not. Send all inquiries, comments, suggestions, and even let us know if there is someone you want us to interview to doordonotpodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook at Do or Do Not Podcast for updates. If you enjoyed our podcast, please share it with your classmates and administration. We have plenty of more interviews lined up, and we're excited to share them with you. This is Tian Yu Shea. Thank you guys so much for listening to Do or Do Not.